Hong Kong, I had been there, I think, a total of 5 times. And we used to R&R there, and the ship would pull in, and then we'd be able to anchor out, come in, and do our shopping and stuff. We were forbidden to go to the New Territory area, and that was a fenced-off section of China. But we could go, and that was off Macau. So they said, if you go to Macau, you can gamble and stuff, but don't go to the New Territories. And we pretty much wanted to do all the shopping and everything that it was right there in Hong Kong itself. And we had the privilege of going across the sampans in the Apra Harbor there to get into the 3 big floating restaurants, 3 stories high, and pick our dinner. And you go by the cages that are sticking in the water, and you say, well, I want that particular fish or that squid or that turtle or whatever you wanted to eat. But you had to remember that Aberdeen, with all those floating sampans, where they urinated and where they pooped and everything else, was all right in that bay at the time. So, but it was an adventure each time you went there. I'd do my shopping, and for no reason at all, I went by a shop that had typewriters, and I bought a portable typewriter. And I couldn't type, but it was cheap, and I thought I'd just get one for the fun of it. I bought some cameras and all kinds of lens and everything for the cameras. It was a P3, Petri, and later I tried to get the thing fixed, and they'd gone out of business, but I used it, and I had the biggest lens and the littlest lens and everything you could buy with it. And I think the total was a 35 millimeter, and I think it cost me altogether, with all the lens and the case and everything, it was $135. So it was a tremendous buy. And I told you about buying suits, and especially engraved for John B. And I told you about the no squeak shoes. And I bought the pair of no squeak shoes, special, beautiful fit. When I got back to a rainstorm in the Philippines, they fell apart. I was walking along one day, and pretty soon I had no shoes. The no squeak shoes were like cardboard. As soon as they got soaking wet, they just all fell apart. But as long as you didn't get them wet, I never knew the difference between a regular pair of shoes and the no squeaks. Anytime we got into Hong Kong or any of the ports where you anchored out and you had to take a small transport to get you from the ship in, I always carried a fistful of pennies or nickels or maybe even dimes, because we were always required to dress in either a suit or in our uniform when we went ashore. And that was in the early days. Later on in Vietnam time frame, when we went to Hong Kong, you had to be in civilian clothes because they didn't want to have you come from a Vietnam port and pull into Hong Kong in uniform. Chinese were kind of sensitive over that. But when I would be in uniform in the early days on the Bonnie Dick, I would take that handful of pennies, and as soon as I got to the pier, I'd be one of the first guys to jump out and run out there, throw the pennies down on the concrete pier, and run like hell to get into a rickshaw and get out of there. Because if you didn't give those kids something in one hand, they'd have dirt or grease or something and they'd smear it on you. You were number 10. So, but once you've made a few trips over there, you always carried your civilian passport. You also had a military passport, and you knew which one to use when you went cash money in. So Okinawa had pulled into Okinawa, and that's the day when they were changing the direction and turning the island back. And we had 6 chiefs together, and we rented 2 little Japanese taxis, and we all wanted to go get a hot sea bath, cleaned up and everything, get some civilian clothes, and go out into town. So we took our little bags with us, overnight bags and stuff, went to the bathhouse, and that night we had the Marines that were stationed there, and I don't remember, they said they were part of the 7th Fleet, which I don't understand, and they were moving back to the States out of Okinawa, and that was their last night there, and they were all at the clubs, and they were all boozed up, and they all came storming in when we're in our steam cabinets inside the hot sea bath. Now, they scrub you all down with soap and water and everything. Then they hit you with a ice water wash down, and then you jump into this nice hot sea bath, steam, and they close the 2 doors on the steam, your individual steam cabinet, and all that's sticking out is your neck out of the top of it. And once you put your head through the neck, the doors close, and there's a latch on the outside that has to be opened before you can open the doors and lift the top. They trapped us in there, and we didn't want to tell them we were chiefs in the Navy. So this one guy had one of these great big containers of Seagram's liquor, and had a spout on the end of it, and he was running around, have a drink on us, and he'd stick it in your mouth, and if you didn't drink it, then he'd just shake it a little bit, and you'd choke out of about a shot and a half of liquor that would shoot out of it. And after about the 2nd or 3rd one, and you're in the steam cabinet, you're getting higher than a kite. And this is going on. They started to take the towels, and they'd get a wet towel, and they'd snap it at the girls that worked there that gave you the rub downs and stuff. And they were snapping at them, and they called the police. The shore patrol and the Japanese police came in. Fortunately, we were all locked in the steam cabinets, so they just let us get dressed, and we had to go back. By then, it was so late and everything, we had to wait till the next day, so we didn't get to really go into town and look all of the place over until the next day, and that's when we had to be getting back to the plane to fly back to Guam. So, or not fly back to Guam, but go back to the ship and go out. Our liberty was up. So we had 6 chiefs to tell their stories on the ship.